Yeah. And I completely agree. This is what I would say is the we were kind of going back and forth of what defines black metal. Um and I would say the defining element of black metal is that it is a raw, unabashed expression of European identity. It is the wolf that has been caged up for so long, breaking out and being in a frenzy. And it is kind of this I don't know how to explain this, but it's like this extreme display of the folk soul that has been repressed for so long, right? And that's what, in my opinion, what black metal was about, and what metal in general was about, but especially what black metal is about. And the fact that black metal has inspired and informed these genres like neo folk and dungeon synth and everything. It's like an exogenesis of music that represented a European people, and that it's completely devoid of outside elements, and it led to something that is very ancestral and very organic, and something that has heart. And I think that's, regardless of whether or not I love all of black metal, or I think all black metal artists are great, or whatever, regardless of my little persnickety ass little critiques of black metal as a whole, it is a European expression. And it led down a logical conclusion of becoming something that is very special and artful and meaningful. And for that reason, black metal is fucking based.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like it's a very pure such expression of the European folk soul. And I think metal itself is, as I was saying before, it's kind of, as it purged itself of its original elements and grew into what it, become what you are. It has become more and more of a problem, actually, for liberalism. Like, from the perspective of modern pause, metal is too reactionary, it's too masculine, it's too technical, and frankly, especially with black metal, it's too folkish. Like, I remember a couple of my friends having this discussion, and this was back in like 2010, mind you. I mean, like, shit has accelerated enormously since then. And they're basically saying just this, like, metal obviously rules, but it's like really problematic, right? Like, just look at Phil Anselmo. Like, that guy just screams white nationalist 1.0. I mean, come on. And just like, look at the aesthetic of metal from the 80s up to the present day. What does it look like? It looks like fucking barbarians crushing in some weaselly noodle arm skull with a mace. It's right. It's too reactionary, and it's way too masculine. Like, what was that band with the chick singer? Metal band, Arch Enemy, I think it was. Yeah. Like, that kind of thing is an anomaly in metal. It's very hard for women to do the vocal fry that men can do for metal vocals. So it's too masculine. Another thing that grates against liberal sensibilities is that metal is inherently anti-egalitarian. Like, you can't just pick up an instrument yesterday and then go, like, scream something into a microphone and you're a metal band. You have to put in the fucking hours. You have to be kind of autistic about it. You got to suffer a bit for your art, right? Yeah. You have to be technically competent. And technical mastery is something that just inherently generates hierarchy. So, like, really don't like this kind of thing. And when you look at a metal album cover, I mean, what do you see? Well, what you're likely to see is a hell of a lot of like natively European elements. You're going to see tons of gothic imagery. You're going to see like everything looks like Halloween. You see barbarians charging on horseback. You'll see winter scenes and like ruined churches. You're going to see the weird sort of barely legible fonts that sort of, I think these things kind of like bear an uncanny resemblance to like Celtic and Germanic knot art. You know what I mean? In another nutshell, you're going to see a whole bunch of heathen imagery. Mm. And at a very deep level in his gut, the liberal is repulsed by all these things. I mean, sure, it's kind of like vaguely anti-Christian, and like for, a like barista metalhead or whatever, like this is good. But unless his mind has been completely rotted by Marxist anthropology, like he knows in his gut that the skull crushing barbarian's next move is probably going to be to like enslave him. You know, like he knows that the heathen is not some egalitarian shit lib like him. In fact, it's probably much worse for him than any could ever be. Right. So, yeah, I mean, metal is really like a weird genre to be kind of, you know, wokeified like this. It's kind of funny to watch these people squirm. Like you can see as they're like the metal fans that are like also progressives or whatever. It's like you can see their healthy instincts are kind of like fighting against their paused conditioning or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're kind of rooting for them, but at the same time, it's kind of like pathetic. I don't know. It's just, yeah, it's just funny.
Exactly. It's uncaged masculinity. It's the European folk soul. It's all of these kind of elements that make up metal as a whole. And they're just, I think for this reason that metal is going to be a thorn in the side of liberal pop culture hegemony forever. And they're never going to be able to shake it. It's like, you know, we talk about these like old school authors and these old school artists that had these like just so problematic worldviews, all this kind of shit, but they can't do anything about them because they have foreverness. I think that heavy metal is not, you know, because there's so many like subculture music genres that kind of rise and fall and come up and go down. Metal has foreverness because outside of all of the other genres, it has the most amount of like spiritual expression in it. In my
Punk
opinion.
tried to kill the metal, but they failed. You know that song?
No.
Tenacious D? Oh, fuck.
No.
You got to listen. Go check it out after this. The Tenacious D song, The Metal. You'll like it.
I'll check it out. But yeah, so that's kind of what I got to say about it. You know, it's just heavy metal is just, you know, I mean, for me personally, it's been huge and I'll tell you what, I was a nationalist before I knew what nationalism was because of heavy metal, because of extreme metal. You know,
I think that's true of a lot of us for a lot of things. You know, like these things. You know, most people don't get argued into the nationalism. They come at it mostly from an aesthetic perspective.
Yeah. So I think there's and yeah, I've read this a lot. I actually went and I looked up. I was like reading some Reddit threads. They actually have a problem with speaking specifically black metal. They believe that it is radicalizing and that certain albums need to be banned because
they're probably right, to be honest.
They are
really.
Right. I mean, it's like, but as I read that, I'm like, this is like exactly like the church ladies in the 80s all over again.
Yeah. They're just Tipper Gore, but like, you know, the next iteration of that. And like, to be honest, back then I thought that shit was cringe, and I still do. And I would love to see it. I was happy to see it toppled back then, and I'm happy to see it toppled today. You know, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's kind of ridiculous. It's just funny the way that these things structurally come back, right?
I don't even think that those two groups are different, Tipper Gore and the progressives now. I think that the only thing that's changed about them is their veneer. They are both like these policing forces to purge out hostile elements that are problematic for the globo machine.
Yeah. I mean, like some of what, you know, Tipper Gore was against was certainly not good, like, you know, the pornography and stuff like that. That's degenerate, but they're all for that today, right? So it's a bit of a different situation in some cases, but they certainly structurally, you know, the woke, you know, church ladies of today, basically, they are all about enshrining that into our sociality. So fuck them. And metal is a great vehicle for giving them a middle finger. And so all the power to these guys.
Very cool. All right, Mr. Mike, we're coming up on an hour. You want us to close it out?
Yeah. I think that what, you know, ultimately, I suspect that half of what makes the dissident right what it is just guys who like metal and shit like that, but also hate sex. I think that it's an aesthetic thing, and we're kind of on this one. We're weird. We're not the normal, right. We are the revolutionary right. We're the vanguard. You know what I mean? It's the rebirth of the Odinic, I think. This is, what we want to see is the great man striding across the horizon with a torch in his hand, ready to burn that shit down. And what the left ultimately fears is not the trad right. The trad right, although certainly venerable and necessary and good, just cannot go up against what we have today. What they fear is a revolutionary right. Only fire can drive out fire. Only a based vanguard can drive out a vanguard. And that's what we are. We are the based vanguard. And so that's why we're getting deplatformed. And I think a lot of this comes down to aesthetics. We like stuff that's weird and a little bit frightening and a little bit beyond the pale. But at the same time, we're of the right. We stand for order and whatnot. So this is very, very scary to the left. And black metal is itself a kind of vanguard within European aesthetics for that. So that's kind of my final take on the matter.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. I just wasn't expecting you to say that love this and hate sex. This caught me off guard. But no, you're right though. It's like and I especially like that last bit that you're talking about, how there's something unique about us that separates us from your standard conservatives or paleo conservatives. And there's a little bit of weirdness about us. There's a little bit of strangeness. There's a little bit of extremeness, revolutionary spirit, creativity. We're a little bit offbeat. We're a little bit out there. But you know what? Offbeat, out there, weird people create things that have uniqueness, and uniqueness gives foreverness.